you for reminding me. It's an honor to have you. I'm so grateful to have you here. And yeah, you just asked me if you can do it a little bit like Q&A style, podcast style. So everyone here has the opportunity to ask his questions. And yeah, first of all, welcome and thank you a lot, man.
Absolutely, my boy Ben. Very excited to be on this call. I know that we've been talking about doing this since I was out in Vienna. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to get it done now. I've been home for, I think, like a week after this 2-month tour that we just came off. I leave tomorrow to Tulum, and the travel start up again. So I'm glad that we were able to squeeze this in. And bro, honestly, calls like this are my favorite. First of all, I don't get to do a lot of calls specifically focused on men. And I think that that's something that we definitely need to lean into more. And then on top of that, it's not a training. It's not me reading, my notes and giving you something that is predetermined. It's something that, people on this call, everybody's struggling with different things. And some people need insight on certain areas. And I think that these are the most honest forms of calls that we can do, where it's not scripted. It's off of the top of my heart and it's off the top of my mind. And it's honest and it's real and it's transparent. So I'm excited to be on here. I hope you guys are doing incredible. And let's rock and roll, Ben.
Oh, I love it. Love it. And I hope you can hear me quite good. Bergson is in front of me doing his call as well. We are always battling within the office. Who's louder?
No, I hear you perfect, my bro.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we already had, I think, 7 calls, 7-man calls. We are in the 7th or 8th man call right now. We already talked a little bit about the masculine energy, feminine energy, about identities we are allowed to lose, about some NLP stuff I learned back in the day. And I think there's so many important things we have to learn as men, especially. And like you said, I think a lot of us are struggling. I mean, I'm struggling still, and I think I always will. And so it's awesome just to have the talk. And oh man, the first questions I in love it. Jonas just asked, do you have to be mean sometimes as a man to be masculine? Okay, first questions.
I don't think masculinity comes from it doesn't even mean that you have to be aggressive. I think that often if you are not aggressive, you're not perceived as a man. And I think that some of the men, yesterday I made a post about the men that I follow on my Instagram, and I spoke about a few of them. And I have mentors for different areas of my life. I have mentors in fatherhood, in music, in spirituality and breath work, in business, in leadership, right? And I can, with the exception, there's about 4 men that I follow, and I call mentors and I call leaders for me. And with the exception of one of them, Christopher Terry, none of the others are aggressive at all. None of the others are red energy. They're actually some of the most laid back, calm, meek, which means humble, right? Individuals that I've ever met. And I don't think that you need to be mean. I don't think that you need to be aggressive to be able to have that masculinity. I think that masculinity comes in all different shapes and sizes. I think that it's something that each of us have different personalities. I'm very assertive and very aggressive. That's just inside of my nature. But a lot of the people that I follow aren't. So I think it's more so being true to yourself. If you're naturally a very assertive man, then that's going to show inside of your masculinity. If you are a naturally very docile and chill person, that's also going to show inside of your masculinity. I think that masculinity is more so a certainness of ourselves. and a willingness to go out there and accomplish it, a willingness to go out there and provide, a willingness to go out there and protect, a willingness to go out there and lead. And none of that really needs it. It doesn't need aggressiveness. If you have it, it's not a bad thing, but it's not a requirement.
I'm always thinking about the quote from Jordan Peterson. I like him a lot because he's very balanced for me. And he had a quote like, you have to be a monster, but you have to be able to control it. You don't need to be it all the time, but there has to be the potential to defend your family, for example. There has to be a certain possibility of you doing things which are needed in certain situations. And maybe the question also goes into that a little bit. This was just what I just thought about. What do you think about
you
that?
know, at church, I attended this men night once, and my pastor was talking about how meekness is not a weakness. I actually want to pull up some of those notes because that touches right on that. He says meekness is not a weakness. And when he talks about meekness, he said meek is another word for humility. When meekness shows up in scripture inside of the Bible, I'm not sure what it is that you believe in, but when that word pulls up inside of the Bible, it's a picture of confidence. It's a picture of stability. It's a picture of strength. But it's confidence, stability, and strength under control, right? It's like a tamed horse. If you see a horse inside of the wild, it is fast, it is strong. Horses are used for battle. Horses are used for work. Horses are used for companionship. They're used for so many different things. But you have to, in order to tame a horse, you have to break a horse, right? Which means that horse has to be put under pressure. It needs to be tamed. It needs to go through struggle. It needs to go through structure. And I think that as men, we have to have those traits, right? Of confidence, of stability, of strength. But it needs to be something that's under control. And often when we show those things too often, we don't have it under control. That's usually when it is that our egos are at its wildest, right? So, me and you, like I love what it is that you had said, to be able to protect your family, things along those lines. You and I both train, right? And I think that I say this all the time. I think that every man should take a self-defense class. Not because it's going to teach you how to fight, and not even just because it's going to teach you how to defend your family, but it's going to give you that strength. It's going to give you that confidence. And that is portrayed inside of that masculinity. And when you have that under control, and one of the ways of being able to do so is by training, right? When you have that under control, it's this level of confidence. It's this level of humility at the exact same time.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, especially this is what I always tell people who ask me, what can I do for myself to feel to be a man? A boxing match, for example, it is for me something like that. And you also see what violence is in certain way. I think a lot of men don't even know what violence is. And I think this is even dangerous. If you don't know what it is, then you take it sometimes too lighthearted. But if you know how it feels to get punched, you think twice before punching someone because of
100%.
anger or something.
It teaches you how to control that anger for sure. It teaches you patience. I think that combat sports, that's why I'm into it. I'm not into it. I mean, let's be honest, you barely ever use it, right? It's funny, the people that know how to fight and protect their families are the ones that barely ever have to use it because you think twice. But it teaches you so much more. It teaches you patience. It teaches you accountability. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you confidence. It teaches you stability. It teaches you strength. I'm a huge fan, and I think that every man should take some sort of self-defense.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, there's another question. What are, in your opinion, the three most important things that makes a man a good man?
What are the three most important things? Um, I think a man that can be held accountable and makes himself ready to be held accountable, I think that's key. I think that a lot of the times we can't measure the type of man that we are because we have nobody holding us accountable, right? And we don't allow accountability because we're afraid that it's going to expose us, but it's not going to expose us. It's going to show who it is that we're made out of. When as a man, there's things that we shouldn't be doing. Sleeping around with women, it's something that we shouldn't be doing. Drugs and alcohol, something that we shouldn't be doing. We should be taking care of our bodies. We should be focused, especially as young men, right? As men that are inside of our age range, we have a lot of road left in front of us. We want to make sure that it's paved the right way. And there's certain things that we got to do, and there's certain things that we shouldn't do. And I feel often we talk a big game, but it's easy to speak a big game when no one is holding you accountable. But when you have a group of friends, that you guys hold one another accountable, right? Like, yo, I've seen you've been out drinking way too much, or you've been partying a little bit too much, or you've been sleeping around a little bit too much, right? I think when we have a group of individuals, other men that are on the same mission and the same vision as us, to hold us accountable, that's where it is that we are tested the most. So I think one of my favorite traits, when it comes to the most important things a man should be, is readily to be held accountable. Another is a man that is not afraid to show love. I think that we, especially the men that I was raised with inside of my life, there was like this masculinity where or toxic masculinity where if you showed love and you were vulnerable, that you were weak, right? And a lot of the times the people that they loved, they didn't know the depths of their love because it wasn't communicated. And I think that that confuses some things often. And I feel that the more I've been able to be vulnerable with my wife, or the more I've been able to be vulnerable with my daughter, or my friends, my brothers, my leaders inside of my organization, they get to see the real side of me, right? They get to see my heart. They get to see my passion. And when things get tough, that speaks louder than maybe some of the outbursts that I may have, or me making a wrong decision. Essentially, they get to see my character in its truest form. So I think that that's a very, very important trait of a man, being able to be vulnerable, being able to love publicly, right? And I think another one is, I want to talk about, there's so many, obviously there's the hard work, right? The willingness, the resilience to go out there and get it. Obviously, there is a man that keeps his word, is impeccable to his word. If he says that he's going to do something, he's going to get it done. If he commits to something, he's going to commit to that something, and there's going to be no excuses behind that, right? But I think one of the things that I've admired the most about men that I associate with and I follow is that they've worked on that inner child. Each and every single one of us, we have trauma, man. We've gone through a lot of things, and as men, we hold in a lot of what it is that we've gone through. Um, we hold it in because we don't want to be seen as weak. And that's just kind of like the societal norms now, right? But also in today's day and age, social media, our generation in general, we have really embraced talking out loud about what it is that we're feeling, whether it's from forms of community or whether it's from forms of therapy, right? But I think that you gotta hash some of that shit out that you've gone through in your life. Some of us have gone through some real life things, and we have these traumas that are stopping us from being the best versions of ourselves. Maybe we don't know how to love. Maybe we don't know how to hold ourselves accountable. Maybe we don't know how to work in community. Maybe we have a weird relationship with money, maybe a weird relationship with food, a weird relationship with substances. And unless we understand the core root of why it is that we struggle with the things that we struggle, it's always going to damage us, right? And we begin to bleed all over people that didn't wound us. We begin to bleed all over people that didn't cause the cut in the first place. And I think that going back and working on that inner child, going back and finding that soft spot, going back and being able to dream again, going back and facing some of the shit that you went through, I think that's so important. because you have a clean slate with every relationship that you have moving forward, right? You're not bringing your own baggage into a relationship and expecting other people to carry it. So me being able to work on those things, and I feel we're always going to work on those things, but every time I work on it, I get a step closer to the man that I want to be, right? And because of that, I get to be the father that I want to be, the husband that I want to be, the leader that I want to be, the friend that I want to be. So I would say those three things.
I love it. I really love it, because I think a lot of times the last part you just said, a lot of times we bleed all over other people because of our own problems in the end and our history. There's so many incidents where we're just sitting there and thinking, hey, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to say it. I didn't mean it in a bad way. But we
So many.
did or say it anyway. We did it. And I think most, especially most men, are not really willing to look into that and to really take a look. Why is it that I handled it this way? Why did I feel what I feel? Where does it come from, and how can I do it differently in the future?
Facts.
Love it. Yeah. And also accountability. We just had yesterday, we had a talk with someone who really wants to go in his business, and in my opinion, he has talent for network in the end, but he doesn't achieve what he could, and it's just his overall holding accountable for anything, dressing like a thug, dressing like nothing matters, hanging around while working. There are so many small things which matter in a certain way. How do I sit? How do I speak? Which energy I'm in every single task I do, which make a very big impact also in business. And I think this accountability and doing what I say is such a huge thing for so many people, because every single time you say something and you don't do it, you fuck yourself so hard.
Bro, I mean, if you can't show up for yourself on something that you committed to, how are you going to show up for anyone else on when you commit to them? How are you going to show up for your future wife? How are you going to show up for your future kids? How are you going to show up as a leader inside of the business if you can't show up for yourself? So, self accountability is so important. Like this morning, I woke up and I had planned a few days ago to go on a run with one of my boys. And he texted me in the morning. He was like, I'll be there in about an hour. And bro, my body's so sore. I really did not want to. And I made every excuse in the book inside of my head. But first of all, I held myself accountable to get it done because number one, I committed to someone else. I committed to myself. And then second of all, because I had somebody here, a person that was willing, even if I know my boy. So even if I told him, nah, not today, he would have showed up at my house regardless, because I surround myself with people that hold me accountable as well. Accountability is everything as a man, because it's the best way to be able to keep your word, right? If you give your word to somebody, you give your commitment to somebody or yourself, and no one is there to hold you accountable, it doesn't sting when you don't do it. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you feel guilty when you don't do it. And that guilt is just a reminder for the next time you commit to something like, yo, I don't want to feel that way again.
Love it. I think most people don't have that circle of other men who really hold them accountable. And I think especially here within IM Academy and all the structures of so many driven people where you can connect and create a circle like that. This is not normally given out there. I think within everything we do, we got so many small things we don't see, but they're already there. And I think especially that a group of men who have the same goals, the same thing they look up to, I think most should connect a little bit more in that way.
I agree, man. I heard once that commitment lasts longer in community. And the reason that it lasts longer in community is because you have people that hold you accountable. to what it is that you committed to. And I think that if you don't have a community, you're not plugged into a community, it's not because there's a lack of resources here, but a lack of resourcefulness. You're not going in and utilizing the accessibility that you have, because I've met some of the most amazing men in my life right here inside of this company, people that now I do life with, and we hold each other accountable in so many different areas. So, you know, if you don't have that, I encourage you to become a part of something like that. And being on calls like this is the first step, man. Being on calls like this, like, you found a group of men that are willing to be held accountable and to hold others accountable as well. And I think that that's special.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, we got another question. What is the number one purpose someone has as a man? Ooh, big one.
I think that we all have different purposes on this earth. My purpose may be very drastically different from your purpose, and your purpose may be drastically different from my purpose. And some of us have figured out what our purpose is. Some of us have not figured out what it is that our purpose is on this earth. But overall, you know, I think that the one core thing that we all have in common, I think that's more of a better question. What's the one thing we all have in common? And it's not even just as men, but as human beings, to leave things better than we found them. Right? I think that should be one of our main purposes in life. Leave people better than we found them. Leave ourselves better than we found it. Leave our marriage better than we found it. Leave our friendships better than we found it. Leave every room we step in better than we found it. And that means being good to people. That means doing things for others and expecting nothing in return. That means showing up for yourself every single day, because no one else is going to show up for you but you, right? I think that if your purpose is only about you, I think that you haven't found your purpose. And I think that it has a lot to do with maybe the ego that is in the way. I think that our purpose in life should always be about others. And as a man, you know, we're wired to provide for the ones we love and to protect the ones that we love. And I think that that's just our wiring. I don't think that's our purpose. I think our purpose goes beyond our immediate family. I think our purpose goes beyond just the people that we know and love. I think it goes into serving community. I think it goes into serving people in business. I think it goes into serving people in charitable work. So I think as a man, we need to be able to serve others, but then on the same token, I do want to say being able to serve ourselves. I think that's so key as a man. Being able to, you know, wake up in the morning and do what you got to do at a time that you committed to. Again, it goes back to holding yourself accountable, right? Doing the reading, getting closer to your creator, working out, being, if you're in a relationship, being faithful. If you're not in a relationship, not sleeping around, feeding yourself the right things, both spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, right? Really being able to serve you. Too many of us, we forget to serve ourselves. And as a man, if our purpose is to serve others inside of this world, we're going to have to serve ourselves in order to continue to be able to serve others on a long-term basis. So that means, you know, showing up for you. If you're not showing up for you, you won't be able to show up for others. And then I think on the macro perspective, none of our purposes are fulfilled. On a micro perspective, we all have different purpose in life, but on a macro, I think that that's it, man. Being able to just show up for others and first show up for yourself.
Have it. Yeah, yeah. I think especially when you start to show up, you don't stop usually. If you just start with a very small step, it becomes someone the serving of community, serving of others, because I think most people start for themselves, what absolutely is normal. We just had a nice picture which explains this quite good for me. Is always the first time you go into a jet and the nice lady in the front tells you, yeah, if the oxygen mask fell down, what's the first thing you have to do? Put it on your own had and then to others, because if you're able to step up for yourself, only then you can help.
Can you help someone else breathe?
Yeah. Okay, we got a question from Tim. What is the right and healthy masculinity? I think especially toxic masculinity is like everywhere on social media, TV and stuff. I think there for sure is a toxic one. I don't think it's so big as everyone wants us to believe. What is your thought on that?
It's interesting because after, Andrew Tate, I think that he was a very big shift in social media masculinity and, describing what it is that a man should be in. And I've even seen like these crazy videos of like 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds regurgitating Andrew Tate information and saying that they're men. And I'm like, man, you don't even pay bills yet, dude. That's crazy that you think you're a man, right? But I think that masculinity is not toxic. I think the lack of masculinity is toxic. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that masculinity is toxic at all. I think there are toxic people that are hiding behind masculinity, but they're toxic men. I believe that there are women that have experienced toxic men and mistake masculinity for toxicity, but they don't understand that the reason they mistake the toxic masculinity for toxicity is because there was a lack of masculinity inside of the household, and that's what became toxic. Masculinity is not something that's toxic by any means. Masculinity, it takes a man to show up for his family. It takes a man to overcome struggle day after day after day. It takes a man to provide. I mean, I feel if you're in a household with a woman, right? Yeah, it's beautiful if she's working. I think it's beautiful if she is bringing to the table financially to add onto that table. But when I got married with the intent of providing everything, and anything they provided was something on top. Protecting my family from an emotional perspective, not allowing them to suffer from the same things that I suffered from generational perspectives. Making sure that they don't suffer from a financial perspective, making sure that they don't suffer from a spiritual perspective. It takes a man to be able to do that. It takes a man to be able to lead the marriage, right? When you're dancing with a woman, it's a man that's leading it. It's the same exact thing in marriage, because you're always going to be dancing. It's always going to be a different rhythm and a different beat, and you're going to have to adjust inside of marriage. And it's going to take you leading that marriage to have a flowful marriage, right? It takes masculinity in order to put the right morals and the right ethics into your family, and have that be taught in a way that doesn't scar people, that doesn't create trauma, that is God-centered in the middle of everything, that is centered with the right ethics and ethos, right? It takes a man to be able to do that and make sure that your family doesn't suffer from the way it is that you taught that. And these are all things that define what masculinity is. We could sit here all day and talk about what masculinity is. I don't think that masculinity is toxic. When it becomes toxic is because there's a toxic man hiding behind masculinity. I don't believe that masculinity is toxic. I believe that the absence of true and real masculinity is toxic. And that's what has a lot of people confused. Masculinity is a blessing. And I think that there needs to be more households with healthy masculine men, confident masculine men, sure of themselves masculine men. I think that that's really what's missing.
I think especially if we talk about control and providing and protecting with those attributes, where should be there any toxicity? This not possible. As you said, I think if there is lack of control, then everything is possible and it can become very toxic. But everything we should stand for is just beautiful and takes so much time, energy, takes so much in the end, we give everything of us just to be the man we need to be, and I don't see there any toxicity as well. So
I think it can be also become toxic. Masculinity can become toxic when there aren't equal, there's not equal accountability from other men and other women as well in the household. Because when masculinity becomes toxic, like I said, it's because a toxic man is forming, right? And a toxic man forms when he's not held accountable for his actions. So too much power inside of anything is a bad thing, right? Not enough control inside of anything is a bad thing. So I think that masculinity is being able to know that you have the control, you have, let's say, certain pull inside of your household or certain pull inside of your relationship, but at the same time it doesn't get too out of control because I have somebody like my wife that is holding me accountable as well. She allows me to be masculine, she allows me to lead, but when things start to get out of control, she also holds me accountable.
I think this is maybe a little bit what we see in a political perspective. I think we don't need to step into it, but in the end, we got such a divided world right now between left and right. And in the end, it doesn't matter in which direction you go. At the very end of every aspect of left and right, you had some sort of government which had too much power, which ended in the same bad way.
Not enough checks and balance.
Yeah. Okay, we got a good question from Fabian. How do you get a great charisma that amazes everyone when you get in a room or in a stage? What are your tips, experiences? I think most people just mean yeah, if a special man walks into a room, you can feel it without talking.
Confidence, man.
Yeah.
It's confidence. It's confidence. When I get on stage, I'm confident in, number one, what I'm teaching, I believe in. I genuinely believe what it is that I'm teaching. I'm not just rehearsing lines. I've lived it. It's a part of my identity. Number two, I've put in so many reps and I've done it so many times that I know I can deliver it no matter what. So I'm confident that the message is going to get through, and the message is something that I truly trust and believe. I'm confident in myself. The reason I'm confident on myself is because I worked hard to be confident on myself. I learned to love myself. I learned to work on some of my flaws and accept some of the ones that I can't change. I've learned to allow myself to be loved by others and to love in return, despite what I've been through inside of my life. I work on myself. I do the personal development, the spiritual development. I work on my body. I work on my heart. I work on my crew. We work on it together. So I'm confident in myself because I've shown up for myself for so many years. So when you're confident in what it is that you do because you believe what you do is for a greater cause, you know that you're the best at what it is that you do, and you show up every single day to work on yourself, that's just a confidence. You don't try to be confident. It just kind of happens. It's a byproduct. And it's interesting because now as a confident man, I can recognize confident men and I can recognize insecure men as well very, very, very fast. And sometimes an insecure man tries to be overly confident, and you can tell that, right? And the reason that they're being overly confident is because they're trying to be confident. I don't think confidence is something that you try to do. I think that confidence is a byproduct of you doing what you need to do for you. And because of that, you naturally are confident. That's why every room I walk in, I feel, I don't feel I'm better than anyone by any means. I feel that there's something that I can learn in each and every single room that I step into. I listen a lot more than I speak when I step into rooms, especially when I'm a stranger inside of that room. But I also I'm sure of myself. I'm sure of myself, and I think other people read that as well. And people want to do business with a man that's sure of themselves. People want to do relationships with a man that's sure of themselves. People want to do friendships with a man that's sure of himself. And that just comes from showing up for you, man. You gotta show up for you every single day. You need to show up for you. You need to do things that make you feel proud, things that make you feel good. And if you don't do that enough, you're naturally just gonna have not enough things to be proud of. You know, I'll give you an example. My little bro, he was going through a massive funk, and he was here at home, wasn't going to college, finished high school. Um, wasn't working out, wasn't he had a job that he absolutely hated, and he decided to pack his things and go across the country and start studying cooking. And now he's in some of the best shape of his life. He is waking up with purpose. He's waking up towards something. He's making new friends. He's going on these hikes. He's spending holidays alone, which is never easy, but that's somebody that's showing up for himself. And because of that, I see the confidence when I speak to him. I see the confidence inside of the group chats. And when we're joking with him, where he used to be very insecure when we joked with him, now he embraces it because he's confident about who it is that he is. And the only difference is that he started showing up for him.
I love it. And I think this is always the same pattern. I mean, if we think about successful people we would like to connect with, and our network is our net worth, everyone is saying it, but I think at a special point, you just feel it, and you just want to have a network of people, even out of other industries, doesn't matter, who got the same energy. And the energy is self-confidence. The energy is working for something bigger than money. I think money is anyway a byproduct over time. And I think you see it especially with you. I mean, with your success within the last 10 years in our industry and your financial success as well, you still see everyone here can still see you on tour, even having a small baby at home in the end, which is not easy to leave, let's be honest,
No, it's not.
but you're still showing up. And I think this is something which will never be easy, because there will always be certain points why you don't want to do it, but you still do it.
Always, man. Always, always. If I commit, I'm gonna be there each and every single time.
It's amazing. Marcel got a question, and he says, I know it's a topic that nobody wants to talk about, but it's true. Is it true that watching porn is also destroying our masculinity? What are your thoughts on it?
Huh. Well, we're on a men's call. We can talk straight. I think anything in excess is bad, man. I think that if it is controlling you, I think if it's something that you need to do every day, I think if it's something that makes you feel guilty after you do it, bro, you gotta fucking listen to that voice. If it's something that you're like, damn, again, then yeah, it's definitely destroying your masculinity. I mean, I personally, if you're doing it on a once in a while thing, man, like I fucking get it. We're guys. You got to control the amount of times you do that shit. You got to control it controlling you. And from a biblical perspective, it's something that we shouldn't be doing. So if afterwards you feel guilty about doing anything, not just porn, but anything, yeah. And also, it's what I've seen is dudes that watch a lot of porn, they're usually the ones that are the most nervous to go talk to real girls, right? Some of my boys, they'll be very good looking men, but they have a porn addiction, and it's because they've gone ahead and they've gotten that nut off, right? So they don't have the urge to go talk to a real woman, or even worse, they're nervous because all the women that they look at are through a screen. And a lot of people are afraid of rejection. And the sooner you get over that fear of rejection, you're going to be able to talk to girls a lot more. And then when you're able to talk to girls, you're probably going to stop doing that as much as you do it right now. So yeah, man, I would just gauge it off of, do you need to do it every day? Then that's probably a problem. Do you feel bad after you do it? It's probably a problem. But that's also for everything inside of your life. If you feel bad after you drink, it's probably a problem. If you feel bad after you play video games, it's probably a problem. If you slept in and you wake up feeling bad because you slept in too late, it's probably a problem. Porn falls right into that thing, man. try to, if it is a problem, try to replace it with other things that give endorphins, right? That's why it is that we do it. It releases an insane amount of endorphins. So try to replace that shit with something equally that's healthier, that provides the same amount of endorphins. I know that when I do that versus when I go for a run, I feel a lot fucking better after I run 4 miles. So the next time you feel like, yo, if it's a problem, go outside and go for that run. Go outside and do those push-ups. Go outside and just get some sunlight, right? I think that, again, if you feel bad after you do it, you got a problem. There's definitely a problem there.
When we are already in when we are already in advices, Kevin just asked, what would you recommend to everyone at your current experience? What should every man just do by every day? Interesting question.
So what should a man do every single day?
Yeah, like what are
some healthy habits?
Yeah, what are good habits for every single day?
I think we all know the answer to that, man. I think we all know the answer to that. I think that, you know, you're saying specifically for business, we're gonna get into a whole different training. But I think we know what it is that we need to do as men. And that's the crazy thing, right? We know we need to, wake up early, wake up before your family. Wake up before your family does. I wake up before my family does. Most days. I'm not perfect. But I try to wake up before my family does so I can get me time, right? Go move your body. Go move your body. Moving your body is going to lead to the endorphins that you're looking for, and the endorphins are going to lead to the confidence that you're looking for. Feed your mind, feed your spirit, feed your heart, right? Every single morning, do things that set your soul on fire. Do things that are a little dangerous, right? Go do something extreme. Get off of your cell phones at all times and your computers at all times. Go snowboarding. That's adrenaline, right? Go for a crazy hike that is going to break the boundaries of your mind, something that you've never done before. Get into a gym and start practicing boxing. Go surfboarding. Go for a run and break your record that you've never done before. Pick up weight that you've never picked up before. Go rock climbing if you've never done that before. Do things that are going to make your heart speed up that the average person is not doing. And try to do something like that every week. It doesn't even have to be every day, but it can be an every week thing, right? Something that sets you apart from the average individual, but then also do something every day that sets your soul on fire. For me, it's music, right? It's something that I get to step away from business for, pick up the guitar and just play, pick up the guitar and just write, express myself. So I think we know the things that we need to do. It's just more so like, committing to what it is that we know we need to do.
And as you said, if it's for business, it's a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
But yeah, I think especially within network, a lot of people lose something they really strive for, like you with music. I think you still should have something, and it doesn't need to have a lot of time put into every single day, but just something you enjoy absolutely and sets you free for a certain amount of time.
Absolutely.
We got a question about relationship. Should a man really wear the pants in relationships, or does it not really exist? It maybe jumps into a little bit leading, don't you think so?
Yeah. So I've been with the same woman for 10 years. I've been married for 4 of them. And I will say this. I think that a man needs to lead in the relationship 100%. But you will only be able to lead your relationship when your woman trusts you. When your wife, when your girlfriend trusts you. And how do they trust you? They're watching you, dude. They're watching if you show up, if you commit to your word, if you are doing things with them in mind. They're watching your actions. They're watching your habits. They're watching your energy. And the only time that your woman is going to allow you to lead, because that's what they're doing, they're allowing you to lead. is when they trust you, when they feel safe, right? And that's up to you. That's up to you. But also keep in mind, we were talking about that law of polarity. If you are going to lead your relationship, you also need to learn to listen to the one that you're leading. And that's a huge responsibility. Just because you're a leader, it's not what I say goes. No. A leader leads by example. So if you're trying to get your girl into, let's say, church, right? And you want your girl to go to church, are you going to church every single Sunday? Are you praying? Are you showing her pieces from the Bible? Are you leaning into her inside of a spiritual method, right? It's not about, yo, we need to go to church. No. As a business builder, you want your girl to be building the business with you. How long have you been consistent? That because she sees the real you, not the bullshit you post on social media. Right? She sees the real you. So she's watching whether or not you are always grinding, whether you are always on point, whether you are committed to what it is that you talk about, not what it is that you post on Instagram, not what it is that you post inside of your chats, but the real you, right? So if you want her to be inside of this business, are you showing her results? Are you showing her how it is that it's changed you as a man? Are you showing her the real freaking grind and you actually putting in the time? Whatever it is that you want to teach your significant other, your woman, your wife, your girlfriend, whatever the case is, you got to lead by example first, right? So it's not just getting a woman to do what it is that you want, because a woman is her own woman, right? My wife doesn't do what it is that I want. My wife does what it is that I do. She is in the same realm as me. So yes, we both built the business because I built the business first. Yes, we both go to church because I went to church first. We eat certain foods because that's what it is that I brought into the house. And now my wife trusted to follow me because I've been a man of my word with everything that I say and everything that I do. So Ben, I think that's the time that I have now. But this is sick, man. And you guys, I definitely want to see this to continue to grow. It's not often that people get a circle like this, and it's not often that people can come together and let their guards down and ask questions like this. And I think that that's super important. So I'm stoked to see you guys in Budapest. Let's continue to focus on being the best version of ourselves. And Ben, thank you so much for having me. God bless you guys.
Brother, thank you a lot for your time.
Always a pleasure, my bro.
Hey, see you in Budapest. On stage, we're working for it.
Let's get it, baby. I believe in you guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
You got it.
Meine Lieben, ich hoffe, ihr konntet eine Menge mitnehmen. Ich hoffe, das war das, was ihr euch erhofft habt. Ich hoffe, wir haben fast alle Fragen klären können. Ja, wir werden nächste Woche weitermachen. Wenn dich die Themen, die heute angeschnitten wurden, interessieren, in der Gruppe selbst haben wir im Infobereich die ersten 6 Calls schon drin. Nächste Woche werden wir weitermachen mit ähnlichen Themen und immer auch gerne proaktiv. Das heißt, wenn du Fragen hast, bring die Fragen gerne mit. Wenn du Fragen hast, stell sie gerne. Natürlich werden wir in Zukunft auch noch andere Special Guests haben, aber mir war wichtig, dass Matt der Erste ist, weil wir so darüber geredet haben. Ich danke euch für eure Zeit, ich danke euch für euer Vertrauen. Wir sehen uns nächste Woche, Donnerstag wieder um 21 Uhr. Und macht das Beste draus. Und vielleicht hat der ein oder andere schon was für die nächste Woche, was er vielleicht ein bisschen umsetzen will. Habt eine schöne Woche. Bis nächste Woche.
Remember back in the day when you taught me to live and I taught you to pray. We went in the battle together, no matter the weather, we never delayed. You gave me commands, I always obeyed. I never let you go astray. I never thought I'd see the day that you would come and just betray me. Sick of playing silly games, you never loved me anyway. You should not have let me get away, cause now I'm hunting for my prey. I'm bigger, I'm better, my mind is a weapon. I won't ever let up. You try to break me down and I'ma just get up. They ask me how I did it, I'ma just tell them I rose up. I'm a survivor. Fight for my life. Coming back stronger. I will arise. I'm a survivor. Fight for my life. Coming back stronger. I will arise. Staring at you from afar, analyzing every scar, asking myself how we got here. Remember, this is who we are. I am not here for revenge. I did not come to make amends.